Morning, I'm Adam Sexton. We've been very busy with presidential candidates these last few weeks, but there's a very consequential U.S. Senate election coming up here in 2020. Senator Jeanne Shaheen is taking a look at running, or she will be running for a third term, and it's not clear yet which Republican will be taking her on. One name in the mix right now is businessman and 1998 GOP gubernatorial candidate Jay Lucas, and he's our guest this morning. Jay, thanks for joining us.
Adam, thank you very much for having me.
So before we get to the political stuff, let's talk about your current civic involvement right now, which is very focused on your hometown of Newport, New Hampshire. This is in the western part of the state. An amazing downtown there. You can really see the economic power that that community once had, from the Opera House to all of the amazing buildings there. You work at sort of the pinnacle of finance. How do you bring that economic energy back to a place that hasn't seen it in a long time?
Well, Adam, I love what you're saying about Newport, because clearly you've been there and you've seen that beautiful Main Street. And what I'm involved in right now is known as the Newport Sunshine Initiative, which is really about revitalizing the economy in Newport. Not everybody knows exactly where Newport is, but it's this beautiful little town, about 6,000 population, sort of nestled in between just west of Sunapee and east of Claremont. A beautiful little town. And when you talk about main streets, there's no main street in America that I think is more beautiful than what Newport has been and has the potential to become once again. I mean, I can remember growing up there and literally going up and down every single store in that on the main street, being able to identify the family, the independent owners of each of those stores, and on a Friday night or a Saturday morning, just a bustling little town. And the Newport Sunshine Initiative, as it's called, really was born last year at about this time. When I was driving through town, and I just kind of looked at that main street. It's not the same town that it used to be. It's gone through this sort of slow economic decline, and there are vacancies on the main street. There are secondhand shops. It's not really the vibrance that it used to be. So many jobs have left town, and of course we've got the opioid crisis. So it came over me, and I said, you know, as I was driving through, I said, I'm going to change this. We're going to revitalize Newport. And we started. And it's been so much fun. There's never been anything I've done in my entire career that's been more rewarding than what we're doing. We started with 2 people, my wife and I, and we have over 100 people now engaged in Newport in this Newport Sunshine Initiative. And I'll tell you why it's called the Sunshine Initiative, and this is really fun. Newport has this nickname, the Sunshine Town. And the way we got there was back in the 1930s. A vaudeville performer was up on the stage, and he just sort of came over him and he said, Newport, it's the Sunshine Town. It's the town where the sun shines on both sides of the street. And it's stuck. And so in our newspaper and our signs, it's still known as the Sunshine Town. And so the Newport Sunshine Initiative is all about positive, it's can-do, and it's bringing the sunshine back to Newport.
Sunshine is a theme for you. You wrote a book called American Sunshine, sort of projecting this optimism and that can-do spirit you talk about. Let's talk about the other political philosophies that are out there right now. President Trump famously referred to American carnage in his inaugural address. You have Bernie Sanders on the left talking about the system is rigged. A somewhat darker vision of what, or perhaps more unvarnished is the way to put it, of how America works. What do you say to people who say, you talk about sunshine, you're looking at America through rose-colored glasses?
Well, I believe in America, and the reason I really wrote the book was because I do believe in America, and I believe in our fundamental values, particularly freedom. And so what you'll see throughout the book is called American Sunshine, Rays of Hope and Opportunity, is this optimistic can-do spirit, because I truly do believe that if I believe in the power of the human spirit, and that if you really have a strong belief, you can go out and achieve it. So the themes of the book are, you know, one, it's what America can be. It's a vision for where I think this country can go if we can get past this sort of this moment in time where we have so much bitterness and so much divisiveness in our politics, and instead have an optimistic can-do future and vision for where we can go. But for people who read the book, what they'll see is that it's about the human spirit. It's got a spiritual element to it, and it's all about this notion of unleashing the power of the individual, the human spirit. The one other thing I'll say about the book is that it's a fun book, and the reason I say that is that it's got 28 chapters, and each one of those chapters has its own cartoon. And so it's an easy read, I think a fun read, but one that I hope encourages sort of this can-do optimistic spirit.
So it's been a while since you've been in front of a statewide audience like this today. Just tell us, what kind of a Republican are you right now? Are you a strong supporter of President Trump, for instance?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I've gotten this question about President Trump, and I think it would be true to say that not everyone can agree with every one of his tweets, but I think he's doing a terrific job. And the reason I say that is that, you know, you go through sort of substantively what he's been able to achieve, and it's really pretty remarkable. You know, we've got an economy that's growing. He's been able to keep us generally out of war. We've defeated ISIS. And I think one of the things I'm really passionate about is that he's taken a really hard line against China, and he's been able to stand up on trade negotiations to China. I think that's very important. And he's been very vigilant in trying to secure our borders. So I think, you know, I'm very happy on a substantive basis with what he's been able to do. But I also think that, you know, if you look at his approval ratings, which have gotten up as high as 52%, I think that's also an indication that generally the American people have been able to say, hey, we're going in the right direction, and so I'm a supporter of the president.
Is there anything he's done specifically that you disagree with?
Well, I think there are tweets, but I'm not going to go there.
What role should the federal government be taking, do you think, in reducing gun violence and the mass shootings that we're seeing across the country?
Well, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, and I think that our gun rights are something that are fundamental to our values here in New Hampshire and across the country, and so I've been a strong supporter. At the same time, you know, I think that one of the things that I've done is I've tried to enunciate in my book some of those fundamental values that come back to our Bill of Rights, and so I'm a strong supporter of the Bill of Rights and our basic economic freedoms as well.
A number of Republicans were up in arms this last week about the fate of the Born Alive bill in the Senate. This is a piece of legislation that would have required doctors to provide medical care to infants who were alive after a failed abortion, essentially. One, where do you stand on the abortion issue? And two, what do you think that vote says about the direction of where this issue is going?
Well, I'm pro-life. I'm a strong believer in pro-life. And I respect others' opinions, but what I've seen lately and what some of our neighboring states like New York and Massachusetts have done is take a pretty extreme position. That I think is really extreme to be thinking about abortion in late into the third trimester when there's a viable fetus that can exist outside the mother's womb. I think that's a very extreme position, and I think it's one that even the most pro-choice, pro-abortion supporters probably feel fairly uncomfortable about. I suspect that's true. And I think it's going to be one that's going to be difficult to gain support for mainstream Democrats, mainstream independents. I think it's a very radical position to take.
Senator Shaheen spoke against this bill on the Senate floor.
Well, it's I think these extreme positions are not going to serve well for really anybody who's supporting that, and I think it's a very uncomfortable place to be.
What is your position on Senator Shaheen right now? Is she doing enough for the state to earn a third term?
Well, you know, that's one. My view is that I'm not in a position here to criticize really any of our elected officials. I think where we started is that my primary focus right now is on Newport and the Newport Sunshine Initiative. I think it's more important that we as New Hampshire, whether we be elected officials or business leaders or just citizens, we've got so many challenges and so many opportunities here right in the state that I think it's much more important that we be working together. Because in New Hampshire there's so many more things that unite us than divide us, and that's really what I stand for. I think we want to stay positive, and being critical and being negative is not going to serve us well. So
let's go back to what's on record. What are the lessons learned from your race against Governor Shaheen in 1998?
I want to remind everybody that that's more than 20 years ago. Adam, we were talking about this a few minutes ago. It was a very different time in my life, certainly, raising small children and growing here in the state. And lesson, you know, as I think back about that race, it's so long ago. I think we're in a different world today, and one where I'm finding that the things that we can do on the ground locally in New Hampshire are just so rewarding. In other words, for instance, in Newport, if I contrast what we're doing in Newport versus what I see in Washington, D.C., very, very different situation. You know, you got in D.C. what I find is you've got gridlock. This recent government shutdown is, I think, a primary example of that. in our localities, what I like is the ability to roll up our sleeves and get things done. I mean, the other thing that's really interesting is that Washington has become so partisan, so divisive, so bitter. And in Newport, it's not about Democrats or Republicans or independents. It's just we don't even ask. I don't even know. But we've got more than 100 people kind of digging in and really making great, exciting progress in our small town.
So local work aside, when will you know whether or not you're going to make a run for Senate in 2020?
It's something I haven't even focused on. I'm flattered that people have asked me about this, but no, I'm really entirely committed to making Newport a success. And I think some of the lessons that we're learning in Newport, we're creating a little bit of a template. Other towns in New Hampshire are actually quite interested in what we're doing. We had the mayor of Claremont, Charlene Lovett, was over at our most recent monthly meeting on the Newport Sunshine Initiative. Tony Junta, the mayor of Franklin. And so as we develop lessons, we just want to share these lessons across other towns and beyond even New Hampshire, because these issues are the same issues that Newport is facing are faced by towns and cities all across our nation.
All right. Jay Lucas, thanks so much for your time. We might see you back here, might not. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.